Go ahead.
Welcome, everybody, to another Sunday morning at Oasis, Virtual Oasis. Right now, we've got lots of people that have joined the channel. It's nice to see you all. If you're currently unmuted, we ask that you mute yourself now. I still see a few folks that could make their audio into the live stream. All right. I'm excited for this morning. So the music today is going to be brought to us by Royal Chief. And we've got our own Jack Cooley for the featured speaker presentation. The community moment will be the wonderful MK. And man, I don't want to get in the way of this fabulous lineup. So I'm going to toss it right away to Royal Chief. It's all you.
Hey man, how's everybody doing today? I hope well. I'm excited to be here. I want to thank everybody for letting me be here. So we're gonna get right into it. Hey. Doubting me, y'all know how to bring it out of me. Love the people who been shouting me out. You other people gon' be casualties. On site, no formalities. Long nights thinking strategy. Long time they been counting me out. Now I'm banking that y'all don't account for me. I'm taking what y'all ain't allowed for me. Sit back and watch as the legacy grows. I'm on the hunt while you people play catch up. When they up the stakes, I go Patrick Mahomes. All of that front, y'all can't be for real. Remember back in the day, you ain't rock with the songs. Back in the day, used to camp for the foams. The harder way, only route to the throne. Y'all don't know what's coming. I've been up to something. Came from next to nothing, 100 miles. I'm running 100 miles, I'm running no. Y'all don't know what's coming. I've been up to something. Came from next to nothing, 100 miles. I'm running 100 miles. I like when the lights like this. Looking for advice on them nights like this. Looking for advice on them nights like this. Take a risk, roll the dice, though I just might miss. I might not fit. Say I'm wild, but I'm not quite lit. They like my style, but I might don't hit. I might don't quit. As long as I get ahead, then I run in it quick. We came a long way from slave ships. Just to slave away on the grave shit. 40 hours for this little old pay slip. At least let your boy get a day shift. My life changed when I first heard spaceships. Full throttle, you can have the numbers. You know I'm ringing the lotto. We ain't got a past, got a future we can follow. 200 miles later, 200 more tomorrow. Y'all don't know what's coming. I've been up to something. Came from next to nothing, 100 miles. I'm running 100 miles. I'm running new. Y'all don't know what's coming. I've been up to something. Came from next to nothing, 100 miles. I'm running 100 miles. That's my first record. It's called 100 Miles. Can everybody hear me okay? Just give me a thumbs up if you're all right. Perfect, great. But yes, that's my first song called 100 Miles. If you like that record, I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you listen to. Just search for me, The Royal Chief. This next song I'm gonna do is called See Me Now. I hope you guys enjoy it. Uno, dos, tres, Chief. Every day I'm out to get it, the hustle I doubt you can mimic. Whole squad about the business, we can't have no doubts if you in it. Please, people, keep your distance, I don't get no clout to the critics. If you ain't en route to the ditches, if your mind don't amount to ambitions, I'm ghosts. I've been running off a hoe. Desperation in my quotes. I roll till that money close. Bring the range in the stove. Sick and tired of being broke. 9 to 5, that's a hose. They used to pay me as a joke. Now I'm dominating in the polls. Damn, me running through them pesos. Summon everything I pray for. Mouths running, what do they know? Draco, you fake, oh, major moves, we make those. Put my people on payroll. Cut the check when I say so. Them is just my everyday goals. Everything earned, nothing is given, I know. I'm not concerned. I knew I was meant for this stuff from the go. Don't think I ain't put in that labor. Don't think you did me no favors. Don't think I won't do this in major. If you don't see me now, you'll see me later. If you don't see me now, you'll see me later. You gotta see me now, but see me later. Middle, and when I see my haters, rather see me down than see this paper. If you don't see me now, you'll see me later. If you don't see me now, you'll see me later. You gotta see me now, but see me later. Middle, and when I see my haters, rather see me down than see this paper. See me now, but see me later. later. Saw me yesterday, today you'll see me greater. See the way I met this paper, saw me fell at first, see now it's second nature. I see I'd rather play it safer, saw the odds, even then I don't see danger. Giving zero, about to wager. I signed up for this, I never waver. All this here for the R. Been that way from the start, that's until I depart. Throwing shade like a dart, but it's some of your parts don't amount to my heart. Yo, I'm playing it smart. I can see through the dark, man, they talk like a nerd. All that little bar, get you bit by this, and I'm getting my weight up. I'm first to the cake, then I come back for seconds for you, for your plate up. It's on when I wake up. Someone said I made us to leave me be. I got some money to the stuff that you snake up. You say you a Mac, I believe it. With all of these people you make up, I just came to cake up like I hit 3 sevens out in Vegas, taken by 100 acres in Jamaica. Oh. Living that way until the day I meet my Her best friend just touched down. I might go for 2. Take over the whole town, they don't have a clue. That's what I came to do, and I'm just living proof. Yeah, I'm the living proof that everything's earned. Nothing is given, I know, I'm not concerned. I knew I was meant for this here from the go. Don't think I ain't put in that labor. Don't think that you did me no favors. Don't think I won't do this stuff major. If you don't see me now, you'll see me later. If you don't see me now, you'll see me later. You gotta see me now, but see me later. Middle, when I see my haters, rather see me down than see this paper. If you don't see me now, you'll see me later. If you don't see me now, you'll see me later. You gotta see me now, but see me later. Middle, when I see my haters, rather see me down than see this paper. If you don't see me now, you'll see me later. Thank you so much.
Man, I wish we could all clap for that. Anyway, visual clap. There you go. Very nice. We will be hearing more from Royal Chief in a very short order. But first, we've got the community moment. So right now, Mr. Mark Dixon is the person who schedules these community moments. If you would like to share something with your Oasis community, you've got the chance. If you doesn't really matter the topic. If you want a story from your life, or who knows. So if you'd like to do a community moment, reach out to Mark Dixon. Today is going to be our very own MK Muster doing the community moment. Here comes 4 words about MK. She gets a bonus word. So she is kind, smart, fun, and also humble. If she had a warning label, her warning label would be that her brain goes faster than her mouth. And with that, MK, I'll turn it over to you. Hey, Guy, could you possibly unmute MK?
I might be better muted. That could be a deal. Good morning. I'm glad to be here. It's strange not to be able to see your faces. And now for trick number 2, you won't be able to see mine because I'm going to read something today. I didn't write it. I wish I had. I like it. I hope you enjoy it. I'm not gone. I'm still not gone. I'm still not gone. Let's look out the window and see what you're seeing that pleases you this morning. Oh dear, there are things I do better than working online. Many things. God. Probably I'm going to start cussing soon.
Do it.
Oh, cussing. Oh, I meant to ask before I started. The reading I'm doing has a fair amount of it. So just be warned. Cover your tender ears. This is called vamping. Can you say vamping? I had it open, and then, oh my God. Well, I could vamp for 10 minutes, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be quiet, go into yourself, think about something that brings you pleasure and gratitude.
Well, in the meantime, MK, we'll just look at this gorgeous picture of you outside.
Oh, well, I haven't seen it. Someone picked it. I'm going to trust you that it's gorgeous. Okay. That doesn't mean, okay, I'm ready. I'm actually just trying to keep myself calm, little Buddhist calm. Well, I'm doing this as a teaching for persons who haven't done a community moment and might think, oh God, I couldn't do that. I'd never know how to do that. Well, I'm going to have to give that up, and I'm going to come back to being in person on Zoom.
We see you.
You see me? Okay. Well, good morning. I apologize for that. I like what I was going to do, and I'll perhaps put it out in some other way. I was going to speak this morning asking, so where are you now with the virus? Today's the 12th of July, and so it's, for me, been exactly 4 months since I went into quarantine. I was on the driveway at Ron's house. I'd been up there for 3 or 4 days, and I was coming back. I was kind of bummed, like, I'm not going to see you for 10 days, but that's okay. We'll have a good hug. I'll drive home. Life is good. And of course, I didn't see him in person for 3 months. So I think it's a good time to reflect on how the virus and the quarantine has affected each of us, because I'm sure we each have our own story in terms of how that's been. For me, it's been, I think, easier than it has for many, many people. And I'm aware of that. I'm aware of families living in tight quarters and not working. Oh, I see Lisa left. I don't blame you, Lisa. I'd have gone too. And I've just been here with adequate shelter and food, and my phone, and perhaps my life practice. An unusual part of the situation for me has been that in early March, Ron had gifted my family with the gift of bringing my brother and his wife, whom I love very much, my only sib, from Oregon to come here to spend a few days, because my daughter was coming over from Amsterdam, and her 24-year-old son was coming over from Amsterdam. And those were 5 incredible days in our lives. And then on the 12th, when yeah, do you need me? Do you need me to stop? Well, don't answer that. So they left, and little did we know it would be this 4 months of time when we weren't going much of anywhere. So for Ron and me, that meant no movies, no, sometimes 2 movies on a weekend, no eating out. And yet there was this piece called "We are safe. We're adequately cared for in our homes, in our refrigerators, and we have nothing to complain about." I would say that the biggest factor, and I'll sort of wrap as an ending on this, is the factor that keeps my life. It's my life flame, and that's gratitude. And so when I get down, I just have to look out the window and say to myself, tell me what you're grateful for. And one of the things I'm grateful for, of course, is my life, my friends, my family, and our Oasis community. And when I pull my thoughts back to that factor in my life, I'm back on center, and my center holds. So thank you this morning for this incredible snafu. I was worried that the piece I was reading had a lot of swear words in it. And I told Will that I was just about ready to offer some out of my own vast repertoire when we couldn't get ourselves connected. But we're connected now. I wish you all a very good week, and thank you.
Thank you, MK.
Sure.
Well, you know, technical difficulties happen.
Right.
Let's not a no skin off anybody's back. We just get to hear that presentation another day, so we
Okay.
get to something to look forward to. All right.
Thank you, Will.
So I also want to take the time to tell everybody about something that significant that happened to Marge. It looks like Marge lost her brother recently, so if you want to reach out to her, you can send some condolences her way. All right. Let's see. So after that, it's time, I believe, for some breakout meetings. We're going to take our little break / chat opportunity. So with this, it looks like Guy gets to take the lead on playing breakout room roulette.
That's right. Okay, so we're gonna do this here. Let me get us into the breakout rooms, and here we go. I don't know how it's gonna go, but I'm gonna open the rooms. We'll see you guys in about 10 minutes. Enjoy your break. Say hi to everybody. Have some good conversations, and we'll see you back here in about 10 minutes.
Notice how you feel. What's your experience? See the world around you. Pay attention. Notice the way that your chest rises and falls with your breath. The way the blood moves through your body. The way your thoughts quicken, come and go, and persist. Notice. Life connects you to all that is, seen and unseen, through the earth, through the air. Notice these invisible strands of being which tie us together. Notice. In that noticing, open your heart to compassion and kindness for yourself, for one other, for one other, for one other, for the whole world, for us all. Let us worship together. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we
Good morning, I'm Lindsay, and I'm the Director of Religious Education at Super Church. Don't have a battery in the microphone. Which would be my story.
Don't
Our
expect
story this morning is The Heart and the Bottle by Oliver Jeffers.
play. And the one on the white bar, the window bar. Supposed to be-
Welcome back, everybody. The second half of Oasis is soon to start. I'll take the time to ask that if you're currently unmuted as you return to get yourself muted. Next up on the agenda is more music from the very own Royal Chief.
Who did you talk to? Was it that?
Wait, before you get started, it looks like we've still got a few unmuted folks.
Okay.
Let's see. All right, I'll pass the baton. Royal Chief, take it away.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hope everybody's still feeling good, man. We're back. On to my next song. This song is called Remind Me. Hey. Let's take it back. Take it back. Thumbs up if you can hear me all right. Let's take it back to what we used to have. That's falling sand in the hourglass. Thinking back on our past. Damn, time was moving fast. It left us behind. I'm still holding on to memories you left in my mind. All this time and you still a focal point in my thoughts. It's real love. Know you keep a special place in my heart. Ain't nothing changed. Not for me. I'm hoping not for you. It's been years, but love is all that I got for you. I can't explain it, man, I'd be if it were not for you. I'm thinking we need to quit all this playing, girl, and start anew. Let's take advantage of circumstances and act on these second chances. I know you got all them questions, you know I got all the answers. I can still hear your heart, I'll make it a point to listen. This time we'll make it last, this time we'll make it different. I take away your pain. If we love and we loving, ain't no fucking this thing. I get this feeling every time I be hearing your name. I just wanna know if we can rekindle the flame. Hey, let's take it back to what we used to have. That's falling sand in the hourglass. Thinking back on our past. Damn, time was moving fast. Damn, time was moving fast. Back to what we used to have. Damn, time was moving fast. Back to what we used to have. Let's take it back. Let's take it back. Back to what we used to have. You all I think about. And when I talk about my best, you all I speak about. Said I've been searching for the one, do what I'm seeking out. I stay on some cool stuff, you got me geeking out. That there don't even out. But here we are, ready to try again. I got my boarding pass, I'm ready to fly again. It's all love, got your boy feeling high again. I'm reborn, but girl, you got me unafraid to die again. I ain't rapping, I'm penning love letters. The mistakes I made in the past are making me love better. Talk of us together forever, that let me know you in it, admit it, we can't let it diminish. What we got is vintage, this a classic. We lucky some people ain't fortunate enough to have this. That's tragic, we making magic. Plan on putting you in foreign fabrics. Household lavish, let's stop talking in the past tense. Hey, let's take it back to what we used to have. That's falling sand in the hourglass. Thinking back on our past. Damn, time was moving fast. Damn, time was moving fast. Back to what we used to have. Damn, time was moving fast. Let's take it back to what we used to have. Let's take it back. Let's take it back. Back to what we used to have. Damn, time was moving. Damn, time was moving fast. Boom. Thank you so much.
Very nice. If you want to say thank you to Royal Chief in more ways than just virtual hand claps, JJ threw up his PayPal on the chat window, so you could say thanks to him that way too. Okay, we're going to get to hear from the Royal Chief one more time as we close, but up next is our featured speaker presentation. We have Jack, who I should have asked how you wanted me to introduce you, but it's just I just assumed everyone knew you already, so I just mentally skipped that step.
I can do my own introduction. That's
there
cool.
you go. Oops.
Thanks.
All right, I'll take it away.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm going to do my screen sharing here, so hopefully this will work out okay. So today I'm going to be talking about the evangelical exodus, and there's a phenomenon happening where fundamentalist evangelical Christians, there's a pretty steady stream of people leaving the movement, and so let's see here if I can share screen. I think I want to do the keynote. Give me a thumbs up if everybody could see my keynote presentation. Okay, good. So there's this phenomenon that's happening right now, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So first, I'm just going to talk about who I am. So I was raised in a fundamentalist evangelical homeschooling cult. My parents were pioneers in the homeschooling movement starting in 1978.
Never had that before.
And so there's that's kind of my background with that. And I've got a history with that. And I was a son of an independent fundamentalist Baptist pastor. So when you guys see the clips, they get shared around of the pastors who were doing a lot of yelling and using old timey like Shakespearean King James Bibles and stuff like that. That would be the way that I was raised. And then I became an evangelical pastor for just under 20 years. I was trained and was active there. And here's proof. This feels like I was looking up these pictures of me, and it feels like a completely different life for me. But here's me in my pastor role. And I actually built those pulpits myself. I was so hardcore, I made my own pulpits in every church where I was. So that I was that like devoted. I didn't want to even use somebody else's pulpit. I made my own. And then I left, I deconverted and left the faith completely in 2018. So that's a little bit of my own story and experience. So I want to talk about what is evangelicalism. So I'll give you a definition here. Evangelicalism is a sect within Christianity, And there's four main cornerstones of evangelical Christianity. The first one is biblical preeminence, and that is the belief that the Bible is flawless, it is without error, it is the inspired word of God. So they would believe that in its original manuscripts, that it's actually like God told people to write this stuff down. And so that's the cornerstone. So there's a presuppositionalist position from evangelicals that they believe that all truth comes from God and all truth comes from the Bible. So that's like their first step. The second one is Trinitarian in theology. That means that they believe that God is 3 in 1. So they believe that there's one God, but God has 3 persons. So that would be God the Father is the first person of the Trinity, and he's a spirit. God the Son is the second person of the Trinity, Jesus Christ, and he is a spirit and human. And then God, the Holy Spirit, is the Holy Ghost, the third person of the Trinity. And what they would say is that those 3 make up one. So they would say God is 1 what and 3 whos. Now, if you're royally confused right now, I would say yes. That's about right. So they would argue and insist that they believe in one God, and yet that God is 3 parts, and that's something that they are willing to live and die for. Then they're believing in their gospel. Their gospel, what they call their good news, is this concept that we are all human beings are sinners. We're born sinners. And sin is things that we do, either sins of omission or sins of commission. So you can commit sins by doing wrong things, but you can also commit sins of omission by not doing the right thing. So basically you're screwed no matter what you do, unless you're absolutely perfect, right? You're a sinner. And because you're a sinner, then you deserve eternal damnation in hell. But their gospel would say that the good news is that Jesus came and he died in your place, so you don't have to go. Their big doctrine there is called penal substitutionary atonement. Those 3 words mean that Jesus came, took your punishment in your place. So penal, substitutionary, and then atonement. He paid the price for you, so you don't have to go to hell. That's their good news, is that. But the real trick about evangelicalism, because there's a lot of mainline Protestants and mainline Christians who will believe these 3 things, including like Catholics will believe these things. But the main thing about evangelicalism is the last point, which is they believe that good news is for everybody. And it's their job to tell everybody and make everybody become a follower of Jesus. That's what evangelizing means. They're supposed to go according to the Great Commission, and Jesus is supposed to go and make disciples. So they're always constantly working towards that goal of trying to make other people be believers in Jesus. So based on that definition of what evangelicalism is, by a show of a thumbs up, how many of you have some personal interaction with evangelicalism, either in your own background, or you know people, or you've tried to be proselytized by somebody, or you found some chick tract that's been left somewhere trying to witness to you? Okay, so this is something that affects a lot of us, and a lot of us are familiar with. So I want to talk a little bit about some significant historical moments in evangelicalism. Some of these you may be aware of, some of these you may not. So starting in the 1950s, this concept of God and country really became popular as a way to unify the American citizenry against the communist threat. And so it was put that communism was this atheist monster, and we were God's people here in America. And so what's happened in the 50s is that we started having this combination of a strong combination of God and country together. Of course, in 1954 is when one nation under God was put into our pledge. In 1956 is when In God We Trust was put on our currency. So that happened in the 50s. Evangelist Billy Graham was a spiritual advisor to every president from Truman to Obama. Just think about that. Fully 1/4 of our presidents have been spiritually advised by Billy Graham. And Billy Graham is basically a patron saint of evangelicals. Absolutely, he's the godfather and adored by evangelicals. And his influence on American politics and policies cannot be overstated. The election of Jimmy Carter in 1976 was quite a surprise, and it led to Newsweek declaring 1976 the year of the evangelical. Nobody had really heard of evangelicals before then. And so Newsweek did this big article on what is an evangelical. And in 1979, abortion was chosen to replace segregation as a unifying political issue. They were losing the battle. They had lost the battle on segregation. And so they decided they had several things to choose from. And one of the things that they decided they were going to choose to be the single primary political movement was the topic of abortion. And that was actually a decision, a backdoor meeting, behind closed door meeting, that it was decided that abortion would be the single thing that would unite people across Christendom. And so for the first time, abortion is what united Catholics and Protestants and Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses and Seventh-day Adventists and all these people together behind one thing. The Moral Majority was formed in 1980. Jerry Falwell had a big radio preaching program, and so he used that to form the Moral Majority in 1980, which unified major Christian sects into just a political powerhouse and a force. And because of that, Reagan was elected in 1980. And in a very powerful moment in 1980, Ronald Reagan stood up in front of 15,000 evangelicals, and it was a bipartisan gathering. And before the meeting, it was a religious meeting. And before the meeting, one of the preachers there told Reagan, he said, it's bipartisan, so we cannot technically endorse you. And Ronald Reagan got up and he made a famous speech, and his opening line was, I understand that you cannot endorse me, but I want you to know that I endorse you. And the crowd went wild, and he got up and he spoke, and his speech included scripture, and he was quoting scripture to them. And in that speech, it's been called by one historian I was looking at this week, it's been called the most famous line in the history of evangelicalism, when Ronald Reagan said that to that crowd. And that solidified people of both parties that were unified by evangelical beliefs behind Ronald Reagan. And at that moment, evangelicalism really became married into the GOP. So the conservative resurgence also happened in 1980 in the Southern Baptist Convention. And as the Southern Baptist Convention goes, so goes evangelicalism. Southern Baptist Convention is the largest Protestant denomination in the world, up until recently having as many as 16 million members. It is the single largest private organization for aid and feeding people around the world. And the Southern Baptist Convention is absolutely huge. And there's a massive amount of money, a massive amount of power and influence that comes out of there. The conservative resurgence happened in 1980, where a lot of more mainstream and moderate thought in the Southern Baptist Convention was ushered out in very unceremonious terms. People that are long-time Southern Baptist people, they refer to that as a time when there was blood in the pews, that they came in and cleaned house of anybody that was moderate, and they went much more conservative and fundamentalist in their ways of thinking and teaching. At the same time, in the 80s is when you saw a large rise in the charismatic movement. Assemblies of God churches began to really explode, and a lot of the Pentecostal and charismatic movement started to grow a lot in the 80s. The mega church movement began in the 1980s and 1990s, and a mega church is technically any church that has more than 1,000 people in it on a Sunday morning. But there was a few big flagship churches around the country that started to get a lot of attention. Rick Warren with Saddleback Church out in California, Bill Hybels with Willow Creek in Chicago kind of led the way. And now we have, of course, Joel Osteen down in Houston with Lakewood. And we saw that big movement. Now that kind of died off in the 2000s as some things started to shift in our culture, specifically with the downturn of the economy in 2008 and 9, because mega churches are built on the backs of the wealthy suburban upper middle class. And so as that class began to falter, mega churches started to not happen quite so much. Mega churches have been in decline, not because of culture, not because of theology, but simply because of the economy. That's really why. So, and then surprising things happened politically in the last 20 years. And the first was that the evangelical leaders fully endorsed the war on terror and were very public of their support of the war on terror. And then many were publicly supportive of Donald Trump for president, and some continued to be so in very public ways. So the exodus of evangelicals is something that has been happening for about, it's been happening probably, forever. People have been leaving just as much as people have been joining. But the departure that started as a slow trickle has become a flood of evangelicals who are leaving the fold. And there's been the rise of a group, and you can see in statistic, you can do a Google search and see that one of the fastest growing groups of people when it comes to religion in the United States is the rise of the nones, the people that don't claim any religious affiliation whatsoever. This is a major concern in evangelical circles. If your goal is much like Scientology's goal is to clear the planet. Evangelicals' goal is to reach everybody with the gospel. It's kind of the same thing, just couched in a little bit different language. So that there's the fact that there's a rising number of people that call themselves non-religious is a major concern to them. The SBC is dwindling. This last year, 2019, the Southern Baptist Convention dropped almost 300,000 members from the previous year, and that's the largest single year drop in 100 years in SBC. So the SBC is wringing its hands as people are just wholesale abandoning the denomination, trying to figure out how to stem the tide, trying to figure out how to stop that. And if you do a little bit of research, and I was involved in the SBC, the last two churches I was a part of was Southern Baptist, and I was involved with the leadership there, and there's a major changing of the guard there, and they're trying to stem that tide. There's also been a phenomenon in the last 5 years of what I would call celebrity apostates, of people leaving the faith that are well known. This would be people that are famous pastors and authors and teachers, people that are famous musicians and artists who are well published and listened to, people that are famous that are coming out leaving. And a big part of the way for this is that social media has become a gathering place for people. And it's for people to be able to say, hey, I've been wounded, or I don't like the way that I've been treated, or I don't like the theology, or I've got a lot of questions. It's become a gathering place for people to realize that they're not alone. And so when these celebrities leave, they leave publicly, and that causes a big problem. So if you think back 20 years ago, when someone pretty famous left the faith, oftentimes it was done pretty quietly. They would just kind of disappear. Well, now somebody famous leaves the faith and they post some big rant on Instagram or Twitter, and it goes viral, and people are like, oh my goodness, this big author, this big pastor has left the faith. So this is causing quite a problem. So why are evangelicals leaving the faith? I actually asked this question. I have a social media accounts that I have underneath an anonymous name, and it's just really a place for people who are like me, who have left the faith. And I just posted on there a question, and I asked people, if you've left evangelicalism, what are the reasons why you've left? And I expected a few dozen responses, and I got over 400 responses. And so I was trying to figure out how to collect this data that was all anecdotal. So what I ended up doing was I ended up taking the top responses people gave, and I ended up putting together an online survey and then reposting that survey and asking people to go answer the questions. So out of that, this is the data that I received, and this is fresh. This is stuff I just collected last night. And so this is why people say that they're leaving the faith. And as far as I know, nobody's done this research before. Nobody's asked this group this question before. Before I share this information, I want to say, first off, this is not scientific. This is all anecdotal. I'm not a researcher. And these are people who voluntarily had enough internal impetus to say, yeah, I'll take a survey, and I want somebody to know why I'm leaving the faith. So this is subjective, and this is not scientific, and I'm sure a researcher could help do this better. But this is the information that I gathered. When I ask people, what are the reasons that you left the faith? If you can look in your screen, that's pretty small print there. I apologize for that. There's a wide variety of reasons. And the question here is that people could select all of the reasons that they left. So out of 600 responses that I got in about 24 hours, this is what they said. The number one reason was science and logic and reason, basically that they could not justify staying in the faith and deal with science or logic or reason. Another big reason that people came up with was the treatment of women and the church's position towards women, and a lot of times the downplaying of women as secondary. Another big one was errors in the Bible, that if your number one claim is that your scripture, that your sacred text is flawless and without error, you're really putting yourself in a corner there. So if there's any errors in it, then the whole thing starts to crumble. And so that's created a house of cards for many people that started to come down when they realized that the Bible has many problems. Another issue, the number 4 reason why people left on the chart here is something called purity culture, that basically the church is teaching on sexuality, repressing sexuality, teaching old-fashioned puritanical teachings on human sexuality. And then the 5th reason that people listed was the church's teaching on LGBTQ issues and the church's position against that sort of thing. There's a lot of other reasons on here, and I'll publish this at some point. You can take a look at it. But so that tells you that there's a wide variety of reasons why people left, but there's a massive overlap, that a lot of people had many of the same reasons why they left. The second question I asked people were, how long were you active as an evangelical? And it's significant to me that 60% of the respondents were active for 16 to 30 years. So a decade and a half to 3 decades active in the faith. So these are not people who put their toes in the water and decided it was not for them. These were people who were in long term, many of them committed. Many of these people were leaders in the church. Many of these people were trained and active and fervent in following, that are choosing to walk away. And then I asked the third question, which is, what is your current religious status? And 84% of the respondents are no longer people of faith at all whatsoever. 84% have gone from devout, fundamental evangelicalism to no faith whatsoever. That's pretty significant. Now, one thing I will say about this is you'll notice that green bar, and that is that people that are calling themselves Christian, but they're no longer evangelical. It seems like in the process, what happens is people do a deconstruction, which is where they kind of take things apart in their belief system and evaluate it. And oftentimes people spend a season, months or years, exploring another form of Christianity that's not fundamental evangelicalism. It might be progressive Christianity. It might be more mainline Protestantism. Most of those people, from what I can see in the discussions I've had, actually end up leaving the faith completely at some point. But it's almost like it's a transitional phase on their way out. Like, it's difficult to just completely let it go. And so they spend some time there. So a few things to close with. I hope you get your questions ready, because I want to answer questions and we've got time for that. So I think this exodus is going to continue, but don't be tricked into thinking that fundamentalism will ever really go away. We've always had religious fundamentalism. I mean, you go back, if you do, anthropology, you go back, there's always been forms of fundamentalism of every religion, and it's not going to go away. I think some of the people that are leaving are actually leaving because evangelicalism they consider it to be too advanced and too liberal, and some of them are joining more conservative groups. And you're seeing some of this because you're seeing, probably in social media, you're seeing some of these really extreme right-wing fundamentalist preachers that are gaining platforms on social media. I think some of the people that are leaving mainline evangelicalism are going further right and further conservative. But I think that's a pretty small number. I think, as you could see earlier by the results I got, a large number of them are just bailing on the faith completely. They're just walking away and leaving. I am a testament to the fact that fundamentalist evangelicals can change. I had training. I was well-versed in apologetics, original languages. I've got degrees and spent decades ministering to people. I preached almost 1,000 sermons. I preached to thousands of people over the years. But I can tell you that fundamentalist evangelicals can change and do leave the faith, but I will say that it's rarely through being argued out. And so for those of you that are in the atheist or humanist communities, I want you to be aware of the fact that directly interacting in social media shouting matches with people who are devoted to a fundamental religious viewpoint, that very rarely works. What has to happen for a lot of us is we have to experience the fact that the system fails. We have to watch the promises that we are given not pan out. We have to watch that the claims that are given to not be true. One of the saddest things that we're seeing happen in our world today is that, unfortunately, when people are faced with facts, they don't necessarily change their mind. And so that means that often we can debate with people and the debate actually doesn't do the trick. And so we can change, but oftentimes it's not through being yelled at. I tend to think that history will look back on evangelicalism as just any other religious movement, just like the Puritans or just like the Great Awakenings. That I think history will look back and say, wow, there was this period of time for 50 or 70 or 90 years where this movement kind of came up, and then it blended religion and politics together. And I think a big culmination of that, I think what happened with Donald Trump in 2016 and what's happening now is a culmination of what started in 1980 with the moral majority. Like this is Donald Trump is Frankenstein's monster that Jerry Falwell created in 1980 with the moral majority movement. And I think it's a direct correlation and a direct result. And then the last thing I would say would be allow space for those who are leaving fundamentalist religion to grow and learn, and be patient with us. Realize that, like, we're coming from such a drastic right position, conservative position in our way of thinking. And many of us have been in such a bubble for so long. Be patient with us as we learn things, and even as we try to take in new things, that we may not be right where you are yet. And it may take us a while to get there. And some of us may not get as far progressed as you want us to get. But I think it's a good thing when people are leaving fundamentalist religion, and it's a good thing when people are open to new ways of thinking and willing to discuss that. But also realize, please, that I think one of the biggest dangers for those of us leaving fundamentalist religion is that maybe the biggest task of leaving fundamentalism is to not jump on board with another form of fundamentalism. That kind of thinking gets stuck in your head, that binary, black and white, right and wrong kind of thinking gets stuck in your head. And I think it's an easy thing to get into just another form of fundamentalism. So that's what I have for my presentation today. So I don't know, Will, do you want to throw questions at me, or do I just take questions off the chat? What do you suggest?
There we go. Now I can answer. I like people putting their questions in the chat, and Jack, you can read probably better than I can. So
okay,
I'll just let you choose which ones to answer.
Okay, let's see. First question. John asked, how did I come to leave the evangelical church? Everybody's story is different. For me, it was a multitude of things. Personal experience. It was a big thing for me was the silence of the deity, that God did not answer prayer, that God did not follow through on the promises that he made. As a shepherd, being in charge of a congregation, watching people die under my care when we had done everything the Bible said to do to heal them. I did 43 funerals from everybody from a 4-year-old to a 91-year-old. And all those people we prayed for, all those people we did what the Bible said to do. And this deafening silence of the deity was something I could not get over. There was other reasons. All the promises that the Bible gives about marriage did not come true for me. And so my marriage was a big reason for why I left the faith as well. And it was a big scandal, of course, when I left the faith. It was a big deal that, a prominent pastor in the denomination left and got a divorce, and it was a big mess. So it's a long story of how I came to leave the evangelical church. And, but yeah, those are some things. Let's see. I celebrate apostasy. Me too. It's great. I love cussing, man. Cussing's great. And I like doing all the sinful things. It's awesome. Once you realize that sin is just a construct to control people, the world is a lot less filled with shame and guilt. And it's a wonderful way to be, for sure. David asks, have you personally helped anyone else leave the faith? Yeah, it's interesting. I started my social media pages on Instagram and Twitter and my handle is the Deconverted Calvinist. And it's interesting how people have kind of flocked to it. And I deal with a lot of people who just kind of join in and say, yeah, I've had similar experiences, but I also get a lot of people who are questioning, and I try to be careful with them because I don't want to proselytize people away. It has to be their own journey as well. And so just like I don't believe in proselytizing people to a faith, I also don't think it's a good idea to try to proselytize people away. I think people need to get there on their own. And so I just try to create a safe place where I say, here's things I've learned. Here's what I've been through. Here's what my education has taught me. Here's the gaps that I've seen. And here's some resources for you to go. Can you discuss fundamentalism as an issue problem across all religions? Yeah, I think anytime I would go as far as to say this, and I know that Islamophobia is a thing, and I know that we want to be careful with the religions that, at least in the United States, are more minority religions. But I would say fundamentalism is a problem anytime you have a sacred text and the plain reading of that sacred text by somebody who doesn't have multiple degrees, that's just an average intelligence person who can pick up and read that sacred text. If a plain, simple reading of that sacred text leads you to pretty radical, extreme applications of that text, then the text itself is problematic. So if you pick up your Christian Bible or the Quran or the Torah, and you just do a simple reading, and you say, how am I supposed to apply this without a bunch of other input, without a bunch of other books and education and degrees? All of those take you to pretty extreme applications of those texts. And so that tells me that those texts themselves are problematic. And so I tend to be, I believe it's possible to be religious and for it not to be problematic, but I think fundamentalism in any form is problematic, because fundamentalism, I think, tends to shut down logic and shut down your ability to have reason and skepticism. Let's see. Other questions?
Probably have time for 2 more.
Okay. Jack, just like both sides of the aisle accusing the other of extremism, can you share your observations of secularists? Yeah, I would say I have an interesting perspective. So coming from inside the bubble for 38 years, and now I call myself a secular humanist. I call myself an ethical hedonist. I have found that there are caricatures that we love to paint of other sides on any topic. We are definitely a bifurcated society, and we are very tribalistic in our thinking. And part of how we do that is we like to other groups, right? So we create caricatures of other people and other groups, and oftentimes those caricatures either are the most extreme end of that group, or sometimes those caricatures literally don't exist. Those characters don't exist. So in fundamentalism, I saw atheists and people that are on the left or progressive or whatever, very much caricatures like of them, right? Whether it be things like abortion or atheism or things like that. A lot of caricatures drawn. I also see the secular world and the atheist world drawing caricatures about religion. And I, from my position and recent experience in it, I kind of shake my head and be like, actually, that's not what it's like on the inside. Actually, that's not the way they believe. That's not how they think. So like abortion would be a typical, abortion would be an easy one to address there as I wrap up, would be, so the extreme, the anti-abortion crowd, the quote unquote pro-life crowd, they have a caricature that they draw of of a woman who she gets up on a Tuesday and she says, you know what, today is a great day to kill a baby. I want to kill a baby today. Wouldn't that be fun? I just love killing babies. And so they draw this caricature of somebody who's pro-choice as somebody who loves to murder children, right? And so they have this caricature, and that's who they're combating, right? But that person does not exist. That person is not real. And that's not the debate and the topic in the mind of those who are pro-choice. Now, at the same time, those on the other side will paint a caricature of people who are pro-life as all being a bunch of angry old white men who want to control women's bodies and want to take away women's rights to vote. And like all these, and that caricature also is generally, it's really, I've never met anybody like that. What evangelicals and pro-life people really, really believe is that it's a human life that is being taken. That is their root. And because they believe it's a human life, they believe that they will do whatever it takes to save that human life. Now, there's plenty of flaws in their thinking, but that's the true representation of what they believe. So that's one observation I have from being on both sides of that. And that is, it's human nature that we create these caricatures, we create these straw men that aren't really real. And we create these extreme examples. And that keeps us on these extreme edges. And that keeps us from being able to find ways to discuss things. And that keeps us from being able to learn from each other. So thank you for your questions, and feel free to send me personal messages. I'm always open to chats and discussion and stuff like that. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, Jack. All right. To end the presentation, we're going to go more music from the Royal Chief. But before we hear from him, I want to invite him to say a few words. So if you would, tell us about how you got started rapping and how, some of your influences or what that was.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. I appreciate everybody. First of all, I just want to say thanks to everybody for letting me join and come in on your presentation. Like I said, I'm excited to be here. Great presentation, Jack. Very informative, so I appreciate you for that. As far as myself, though, I got into music. I went to when I was about 13, I went to an Usher concert, and I saw Kanye West performing there, and that kind of inspired me. It was a different style, something I wasn't familiar with, and I loved it. And I was like, this is what I want to do for my life. So I've been rocking ever since then. So yeah, I'm born in KC. I was living in Atlanta for about 5 years, out there in the industry and learning and working and everything. So yeah, that's the story for me.
Nice. All right. So we'll get to hear one more song from you.
Sure.
I'll say that a quick plug for us. So Kansas City Oasis is all done by volunteers, and if you're a part of this meeting, in the Facebook page, there'll probably be information for how to donate to this wonderful thing that we call Oasis. So with that, take it away, Royal Chief.
Great. Thank you, sir. Again, thank you to everybody for being here and allowing me to come into your space and share my art with you. I got one more song I'm going to do. This song is called Pipe Dreams, and it's just about ambition and chasing what you want in life and your goals and things you like and having faith in yourself and believing in yourself. And so, yeah, if anybody wants to check out my music, again, just type in The Royal Chief on all your social media, whatever you're on, or whatever music platform you use, YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, you'll find me. All right, so here we go. Hey. Chase. Pipe dreams, all faith in what's not seen. Don't play this life thing, I stay on my schemes. Pipe dreams, all faith in what's not seen. Don't play this life thing, I stay on my schemes. Got pipe dreams. Got pipe dreams. Here we go, pipe dreams, all faith in what's not seen. Knowing I don't know what life brings, hoping that I do the right thing. Dark times I've seen, rhyme doing with my high beams. Clear vision that Visine when I drop these 16s. That's light work, if I do this here enough it might work. Just enough to turn into my life's work. Had to double down and put the mic first. Southern bound in search of my perp. Got to run around so much my thighs hurt. Man, they turned it down and had my pride hurt. Had to turn around and show them my worth. Man, they come around and say they bad and I doubt it. Get rich off of trash, it's tragic. The fact is the game would do better without it. Water the land like I'm Alice, water my head like I'm Albus. The flow here is magic. I'm painting these pictures so violent and they go to sleep on the pallet. Of course I got malice. Push that I live in a palace. I'm sending the flips that you doubted. Some challenge the talent. On this quest to get live. You can't question my drive, question my pride. Do your best to get by. You ain't got this inside. I'm out to get mine. I'm running the race. You wasting your time just running in place. I'm out of my mind. You not in this space. My homie I grind. My homie I chase. Yeah, pipe dreams, all faith in what's not seen. Don't play this life thing, I stay on my schemes. Pipe dreams, all faith in what's not seen. Don't play this life thing, I stay on my schemes. Got pipe dreams.
You will never phase us, that's how the city raised us. The chase is how we came up, however long it take us. You will never phase us, that's
faith without action. Fight my way through distraction, time passing. I don't wanna be 60, regretting my life like what happened. Can't fathom, went to work and my boss had the nerve to come question my passion. Hey, I dream chase for myself. Listen, your dream belong to someone else. Forget the traditional. Them old ways, listen, we unconventional. Since school days, had my own set of principles. Went through a phase, had to learn how to move for the minimal. They gotta know I need all my residuals all. Build health, build wealth, build self. Recruit my dog, show 'em all, had a ball, that's build self. Get it all, give it all back, we gotta build self. Yeah, they try to deter me, listen. If it's BS, it don't concern me. Had to trust in the journey. Listen, your time is not a worry. Listen, my time is not a hurry. When it's my time, it's no mercy. Forget all the critics that curve me. Turn y'all to crickets, don't worry. Got no limits like Percy. To the end, they hang up my jersey. I chase
Pipe dreams, all faith in what's not saved. Don't play this life thing, I stay on my schemes. Pipe dreams, all faith in what's not saved. Don't play this life thing, I stay on my schemes. Got pipe dreams. You will never phase us, that's how the city raised us. The chase is how we came up, however long it take us. You will never phase us, that's how the city raised us. The chase is how we came up.
Thank you all so much again. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Royal Chief. That was great. All right. Well, this is the end of another virtual Sunday Oasis. It's been my pleasure to be your MC. Let's see. So we will do this again next week, but I don't have the details to share for you for what those are. So, oops. Well, next week it'll be something as equally fabulous as this week, I'm sure. So thank you all to MK for the community moment, Jack for the presentation, and Royal Chief. So I will sign off. I bet what happens after this is the meeting just stays over for a little longer if y'all just want to chat. So, but the official part of this is done for the day. Thank you all.
Yeah, everybody, I have a feeling Jack's going to be willing to stick around and take some more questions if you guys want to pepper him with some more questions about evangelicalism.
Sure, I have no life.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'll hang around for a bit. Thanks, Chief. That was legit.
Yeah.
That was so great. Man.
Thanks for having no life, Jack, to teach us.